On our channel, we rarely post videos where we speak poorly about movies. Honestly, there are very few truly bad films. For example, we adore Ghost Rider, even though it has many haters. Any film will find its viewer, and other people's opinions must be respected. This also applies to Supergirl, because many people sincerely liked the film, and we understand why. We have no problem with that. The problem only lies with the role of Supergirl in the context of James Gunn's cinematic universe. Because in a couple of months, it will be 4 years since Gunn became the boss of DC. In the same amount of time, Zack Snyder released Man of Steel, Batman vs. Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Justice League, even though we only saw Snyder's version in 2021. The comparison is, to put it mildly, not in Gunn's favor, although he also started with Superman, and Supergirl was supposed to be his Wonder Woman. Did it work? Let's figure it out. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all technological progress is achieved by geniuses like Tony Stark and Reed Richards. First, as per tradition, no spoilers, and first of all, about the irony. When Marvel released The Marvels, Quantum Mania, and other mediocre stuff, James Gunn teased Kevin Feige, claiming that in his universe there would be fewer films, but all of them would be of higher quality. Gunn also repeatedly claimed that all DC projects are checked at the script stage and that he personally wouldn't launch any with a bad script. Well, James, the irony is that the script is by far the weakest part of Supergirl. Not to say that it wasn't coming, because the script was written by Anna Nogueira, who has nothing in her resume. Nogueira had not written a single film before Supergirl. She only had 5 episodes of The Vampire Diaries. Everyone thought Gunn had found a diamond, but it turned out the way it did. And you can't dump everything on Nogueira. No one forced Gunn to say that he personally checks the script. It turned out to be an absurdity where few DC films are released. The boss reassures everyone, saying, "But they will be cool." And then Supergirl comes out, for which the script was written as if under the influence of sedatives. What is even funnier is that Nogueira is currently writing the script for Wonder Woman in Gunn's universe. And it would be better if he wasn't responsible for the script, but for the actors, because Millie Alcock is an excellent Supergirl. With Jason Momoa, everything was clear from the beginning, but Matthias Schoenaerts was a pleasant surprise. A little-known actor in the role of the main villain is a guarantee of failure. However, in Supergirl, the failure is with the script, and Schoenaerts is unexpectedly good with charisma, delivering something between Heath Ledger's Joker and Vin Diesel. The rest of the actors are also not bad, and it is all the more insulting that they were filmed in this brilliant, overexposed, dusty mess. This is the second horseman of the apocalypse for the film after the script. You can't see anything on the screen. If, God forbid, there's a window in the frame, it will glare so much that it can be seen from the moon. No windows? No problem. We'll put spotlights in the frame to blind the viewers. No spotlights, and we are on an uninhabited planet? Let's kick up a bunch of dust into the air, and everything will be an unwatchable mess. It's clear that the $150 million for Wonder Woman in 2017 and $170 million for Supergirl in 2026 are different amounts of money, and the new film is, in fact, half as cheap as the old one. But the decision to fight soapy graphics by means of overexposure and an unwatchable picture is a quiet horror. Something similar was in the second season of Daredevil, but you can forgive soap in a series. But in the second largest superhero franchise on the planet, please be kind enough to do without series-like glares. And this is not the only thing they saved on. The film was called Guardians of the Galaxy 4, but in fact, it's Guardians of the Galaxy from AliExpress. Do you need funny alien sentient beings? No problem, but there will only be 3 of them in the whole movie, and all other inhabitants of space are ordinary people in Earth teens. The script has a cozy spaceship like Star-Lord's. We'll do it, but it will be an ordinary room in a Khrushchev-era apartment that doesn't even look like a ship. We want beautiful action, like in Guardians. There is no money, so let's deprive Kara of her superpowers every 3 minutes of the film. And in an hour and a half, there will be exactly 3 scenes with lasers from her eyes. In general, the attempts to cross Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Mad Max completely failed. Completely. A bright spot is Jason Momoa, but as screenwriter Anna Nogueira admitted, he was included in the film at the late stages. And just imagine how Lobo turned out, whom they shoved into an already disgusting script in a hurry at the very end. Then multiply by 2, and it will still not be so bad. After all, Lobo literally appears in scenes simply because he appears. First, it coincided that way, then it worked out that way, and then Lobo simply became imbued with feelings for the little girl. A quiet horror, and that is putting it mildly.
Here, let's get to the spoilers. And if you haven't seen it but plan to watch the video, turn it off. Or find out briefly what's what and go watch the new season of From. In the film, the canon was changed, and Supergirl is now not older but younger than Superman. Half of the tragic plot from the comics is in the trash because it's a quiet horror there. Kara flew to Earth with Clark as his bodyguard, but got into the Phantom Zone, where she hung for many years. Arriving on Earth, she saw an already adult Superman, and it seems there is no one to look after, and the planet is not hers. Hence the existential crisis and all that. The movie changed the history, and now Supergirl is younger, and they sent her to Earth when her dad's plan to save Krypton failed. That's the canon, but the fact that Kara is not older than Clark is a huge minus for the film's emotional background. In the movie, it turned out that Kara is just depressed about the death of her home planet, while in the comic, there was a double blow. The planet died, and her second mission turned out to be useless. On the second page of the comic, the writer was struggling, and in the movie, Supergirl goes to planets with a red sun to turn into a human and drink to her heart's content. There, she meets a girl whose family was killed by the space pirate Krem, and No Guerra's script genius makes it so that by pure coincidence, this same pirate Krem chases her ship and poisons the dog Krypto. Why would a pirate suddenly make a Kryptonian enemy for himself? A rhetorical question, just like why it coincided that Lobo receives the order for one of the pirates. From whom? Why? Why is it so lucky for Supergirl? Who knows? Why does 23-year-old Kara, who received her powers literally a couple of years ago, behave like Logan, who killed the population of Singapore? Also a question. Supergirl, for some reason, behaves like a superhero tired of drugs, which contradicts the canon of the film itself. But one way or another, they decide to copy the scenes where a nice family took in Kara and Ruth in their search for Krem. Only, again, the Logan-style result came from AliExpress. By design, there was a cool idea where a good family welcomes them with bread and butter and then suddenly poisons Supergirl to free their daughter. In reality, it turned out to be who knows what. It's obvious to an idiot that they are poisoning Kara. In the end, they really do poison her, but then, for some reason, they try to help. Why did they poison her then? Some kind of quiet horror. But there is more to come. Krypto was shot at the beginning of the film with a special poison against Kryptonians, and then in Supergirl they fire a dozen arrows of the same poison, and she, just flies up to the yellow sun and heals. Couldn't they have done that to the dog? Well, if you don't take into account that a random space pirate had expensive arrows with kryptonite, although there are exactly 2 Kryptonians living in the universe, and one of them does not leave Earth.
That is indeed a far-sighted villain. Thank God. In the battle with such brilliant guys, Lobo helps, whom Supergirl, again who received her abilities the day before yesterday, knows inside out, and who, to our great happiness, flew in for a contract on the head of one of Krem's lieutenants. What a coincidence. Nogueira, of course, said that he was included in the plot at the very end, so everything is a little inconsistent. But it was included 5 minutes before the theatrical release, because any person would come up with a better excuse for Lobo's appearance in the film in 10 minutes. The final battle, where, without jokes, for the first time in the film they show Supergirl with a full set of abilities, is the base of pirates on a planet with a green sun. Yes, the sun is kryptonite against Supergirl. The far-sightedness of Krem continues to amaze. You have to really bother to make a base on a planet with protection from exactly 2 Kryptonians out of tens of trillions of the galaxy's population. The base, by the way, is the size of a small town, and the screenwriters really hoped that no one would ask the question, why actually did the space pirate Krem, who owns a small country on a planet, go personally to hijack a cheap, rusty ship of Supergirl at the beginning of the film? The economic crisis spared no one. Well, Supergirl herself falls under the influence of the green sun and falls into a microcoma for 10 minutes while the screenwriter deals with the plotline of the girl, who, of course, defeats a couple of 300-kilogram space pirates who earn their living by fighting, and along the way frees Lobo, whom these pirates were holding captive. Yes, Lobo, equal in strength to Superman, sits quietly in a cage with thin bars and waits for a little girl to free him. After which Supergirl recovers and together with Lobo kicks the asses of the pirates, and personally and quite brutally she kills Krem, as if the AI that wrote the script forgot to clarify that it's not a 200-year-old Wolverine there, but a girl who lived in a royal family for 20 years. Because of such details, it is impossible to call the film even average. Yes, it's far from Morbius, but it didn't move far from Madam Web. You can watch it, and it's still not bad entertainment with popcorn. But again, the problem is in the positioning. This is not a film. It's a gap between Superman 2 and Justice League. No, this is the headliner of the DC Cinematic Universe in 2027, which in ideal should have proven that Superman is just the beginning. Even with the first film, James Gunn didn't convince everyone, although it turned out not bad. The second one should have cemented the success, or, damn it, be no worse, but it turned out much weaker on all fronts. And it would be fine if in 2-3 months, The Flash or Wonder Woman followed the Marvel scheme with a bunch of films a year. No, DC has James Gunn's promise to release few films, but each one a diamond. The only thing the studio did well was preemptively launch an information campaign that the film was subjected to review bombing by sexists, racists, and bad people.
Honestly, we wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years it turns out that all this sexism was paid for by the studio itself, so that there would be a reason to write off the failure, because Wonder Woman and Barbie were coming out, and a bunch of other projects with women in the lead role, with which no one had any problems. And Millie Alcock doesn't have many personal haters after House of the Dragon. For Kevin Feige, in the case of such failures, everything is simple. Sorry, Spider-Man and Avengers are coming, and we will live on. And what about James Gunn? The releases include Creature Commandos and Superman 2, which isn't exactly hotly anticipated. In the plans, there's Wonder Woman from the same Anna Nogueira, and nothing else at all. Even the successful Peacemaker was shut down, and no one launched the obvious sequel to the Suicide Squad. So, after 4 years, one can safely state the fact: James Gunn is an excellent director, but a terrible producer. Kevin Feige doesn't rush to make films, and therefore he always has a bunch of projects in development. Yes, in recent years, not all of them hit the mark, but Spider-Man 4 will collect its $2 billion, and Deadpool even more so. James Gunn gravitates towards filming, and while he was filming Superman, he lost time to put Wonder Woman 2 into work. While he was filming Superman 2, he lost The Flash, and the acceleration of work pace is not foreseen. There aren't even any leaks about DC preparing any big announcement. Will the new owners of WB, in the person of Paramount, tolerate such treatment of a key asset? In the conditions of the trillions that Marvel will be collecting in the background, the chance for another DC reboot is very, very high. It is sad that even if Gunn manages to convince the bosses and stay, it is still one film a year, and our grandchildren will watch his Justice League at such a pace. Have you watched Supergirl? Write your review in the comments and add what you think needs to be done with James Gunn's universe. Until next time, friends, adios bananas.